Harry and Meghan sell their souls to the devil. Their fate is in someone else's hands. Hello friends, welcome to the hottest news of the day about the royal betrayal couple Harry and Meghan Markle on our Kate Middleton and the Queen News version 2 channel. So at the time that Queen Elizabeth ascended the throne, there was a lot of concern that she and her family had enough money to remain above corruption and outside influence. Now, Elizabeth was the first monarch ever to bring her family onto the payroll, and there was a lot of parliamentary concern that funding was of a sufficient level that the family was beyond temptation. And then when Elizabeth got the legacy that was left to her by the Queen Mother, this matter came up again. People felt like Elizabeth shouldn't be concerned about bills and funding. Similarly, the Prince of Wales was allowed the income of the Duchy of Cornwall, mostly to prevent the Crown Prince from being corrupted by people who were seeking power through proximity to the throne. So this was basically what the concern was about the incorruptible nature of Charles's tenure as the Duke of Cornwall. Several months of discussions took place when Charles was 3, which basically sought to access some of the funding of the duchy to invest in the future of Charles. Until he attained his majority, revenue from the duchy actually went in its entirety to the treasury. It also included the negotiation of a sum of money that was supposed to be set aside to provide for his wife in the event of his death. There are so many very strict regulations and conventions that are put in place to make sure that the monarchy stays above corruption, like the declaration of gifts and donations above a certain amount, and also that gifts exceeding that amount are going to become a part of the crown rather than the personal property of the recipient. Even those blood diamonds that were given to Meghan on her marriage to Harry are included. So Meghan has the right to use them for her lifetime, but they stay the property of the crown, and they end up forming part of the collection termed the crown jewels. One noticeable and pretty controversial exception, though, concerns the Greville collection, which basically remained the personal property of Elizabeth, later the Queen Mother, in spite of its worth. But generally speaking, gifts over a certain amount of money are recorded, and unsolicited gifts like those that were sent to Meghan and other royals, which include things like candles, clothes, jewelry, and other valuable items attached to the people who may use the connection to leverage commercial interests, are given back without any exception whatsoever. So as demonstrated, financial independence and political neutrality are very necessary for the representatives of the monarchy, and that's for a good reason. See, the monarchy is a globally known institution. The Queen was very aware of the dangers of failing to stick to this neutrality. She maintained her record throughout her reign. We can only hope that Charles can fix his ways in this regard and move forward with the same type of circumspection. Harry and Meghan, on the other hand, are basically just cautionary tales about what's going to happen when the conventions and regulations are not appreciated. Nobody ever expressed any interest whatsoever in making a Netflix production about Meghan before she got access to the Windsor publicity platform. She just wasn't newsworthy at all. If she had never married Harry, I'm sure that lack of interest would have continued. But all of a sudden, she found herself the Duchess of Sussex, the wife of Harry, the grandson of the Queen of England, and now the son of the King. So we can bet that the race to have the rights to a tell-all on a normally tight-lipped monarchy was vicious. And the ridiculous thing is, they took the bait. How stupid are they? Now, I'm sure they did it in part due to greed, but also because of grievance, whether real or imagined. So the winners were Netflix and Random House, and now they are calling the shots. And reportedly, they're not very satisfied with Meghan and Harry's proposal to change the material after the Queen passed away. You know what? This is exactly what happens when you think you know better than a 1,000-year-old institution. And this is also what happens when you decide to sell your soul to the devil. So the Greville inheritance, while it was important just because it was so many diamonds, it probably was not for personal advantage to anyone. Their house is actually now a National Trust property in Surrey, and you can go visit if you want to. And we could say the same about the £500,000 that John Camden Neal left to Queen Victoria. She used it to build Balmoral, Osborne, and Sandringham. So in more modern terms, more interest is Dumfries House. Charles and his charity foundation did purchase the house, but he's not going to treat it as a personal residence. And apparently, the Queen Mother was left feeling shocked when, along with the tin containing the jewelry, Polesden Lacey didn't also land in her lap like she expected. Now, about the funding of the purchase or restoration of Victoria's private residences, well, there is evidence suggesting that funding offered to support the monarchy was diverted to fund these ridiculous purchases. And I find it pretty ridiculous that Charles managed to get funding from benefactors using his connection as Prince of Wales to fund what is basically a vanity project. It's not all about saving this house for the country. I mean, this vastly expensive project seems to have taken away money that could have been otherwise used for more practical things. I think, considering the difficult financial state that so many Brits are finding themselves in right now, finding the money to put food on the table is a lot more important than coming up with the money to visit a stately home. So officially, the Dumfries House is owned and run by the Great Steward of Scotland's Dumfries House Trust, or, as you may know him, King Charles, because he is the Great Steward of Scotland. That's one of his titles. It's also been reported that Charles had to personally take out a loan for £20 million after the National Trust was unable to come up with the asking price, and further padded out this with additional funding from a variety of investors. So strangely enough, in the little blurb about Dumfries House that's online, there is no mention of it being available for the personal use of friends or employees of Charles, for family parties or other celebrations. It would be pretty interesting to learn exactly how much, if anything, the scandal-hit Fawcett, who was the executive director of the Prince's Foundation, in charge of the £30 million restoration, paid for venue hire. But this also kind of explains the carrier bags filled with cash that was being handed with alarming frequency. So thanks to these little tidbits of historical information, royal fans are fully believing that Harry and Meghan have a long time now been looking forward to the date of the Queen's passing so that they could alter their documents. If the Queen stayed alive, Harry would have released his memoir knowing good and well that it would harm her. The two of them deserve absolutely no sympathy or mercy. I don't think that Meghan and Harry for a second believed that all of their hatred against the family might backfire. I think Harry especially, during the Jubilee, but particularly during the funeral of the Queen, on seeing the outpouring of love and respect for the Queen, and after that for the King and Camilla too, has at last begun to understand just what he has done. This vitriol in his book against his family is not going to go over well in the UK or the Commonwealth of Nations either. See, I think that Meghan and Harry believed their interview with Oprah was going to call the royal family to heel. Essentially, they thought they were going to get everything they wanted through blackmail. They were thinking, all right, we'll say you give me money, security, this, that, and the other, and we're going to stop saying bad things about you because Meghan gets what Meghan wants. Don't forget it. They thought the Queen's mantra of never complain, never explain was going to give them some protection. But she's gone now. And I think Meghan and Harry are finally realizing there isn't anybody with any real power anymore to protect them. And they're also realizing that perhaps they are not as powerful as they thought they were. What do you think about Harry and Meghan Markle's vision for their future? Please let us know your thoughts below in the comments section. We hope you have found this video helpful. And don't forget to leave us a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back to see you in the next videos. Bye bye now.